Are you worried that too much screen time is diminishing your child's intelligence? New research suggests you might be right. In a groundbreaking study published by Preventive Medicine Reports, suggests that more than 1 hour per day of screen time for children ages 2 to 17 is associated with lower psychological well-being. Kids that spend less than 2 hours a day in front of screens, combined with 9 to 11 hours of sleep and at least 1 hour of physical activity, have the sharpest intellects. Sadly, very few US children meet all three of these daily goals. I have 3 young daughters, and I'm already seeing how difficult it is to limit screen time. Today, I'm going to tell you about the dangers of excessive screen time use. And those dangers aren't just psychological, they're physical as well. I'm here to persuade you to not only monitor your children's screen time, but yours as well. Let's start by talking about what screen time is. The definition of screen time refers to the amount of time a person spends staring at a digital display, whether it's a computer screen, a laptop, tablets, and smartphones. 2 decades ago, families had few electronic screens in the home, the television, and maybe a computer with dial-up internet. There are some types of screen time that are better than others. There's a huge difference between an hour spent killing zombies and dragons and an hour spent on a smartphone app teaching vocabulary. That doesn't mean that everything claimed to be educational is going to be an enriching experience. Recently, my husband installed YouTube for Kids on my child's tablet. She was so excited, and we set it up so that she can only watch educational shows, not the toy reviews that get her all riled up. After the first day of monitoring what she was watching, I noticed that not everything on there was educational. There was a lot of junk. When I say junk, I mean toy reviews, weird homemade videos made by kids, and really just stuff that wasn't helping her learn anything whatsoever. Now, there's nothing wrong with a little mindless entertainment, but there is a limit that we should all keep in mind for ourselves and our kids. Our children learn by example. If they see us in front of our computer screens, television, and smartphones, they will think that's what they should be doing too. If it is so important to us, shouldn't it be important to them as well? I'm sure that, like me, you want a good relationship with your children that will last forever. That is why it is so important to take the time to explore together, whether it's on the media or in the real world. Common Sense Media recently shared the 4 C's: connection, critical thinking, creativity, and context. Connection. It's really important for kids to connect on a personal level with what they're watching, playing, or reading. Are they engaged? Are they engrossed? Maybe even enlightened? Getting into a storyline or identifying with a character, it primes kids for more learning. Critical thinking. Media takes a deeper dive into a topic, subject, or skill, and it helps kids find an extensive meaning. Creativity. It's important for kids to create and learn how to create. They will feel more ownership of their learning when they have control over their experience. Context. Being present and helping our kids understand how their media fits into the larger world is important. With my kids, it helps when I discuss the activities surrounding the movies or games. It's so important. It helps extend their learning, and it helps our relationship grow closer. Mayo Clinic has some great tips for parents on how to guide our children through this technological age we live in. They stated that by age 2, children can benefit from certain types of screen time, such as programming with music, movement, and stories. However, passive screen time shouldn't replace reading, playing, or problem solving. This leads to my next point, that screen time can make your child chronically ill. The American Academy of Pediatrics recommends that children have no more than 2 hours of non-school related screen time per weekday. Recent research on children and television reveals that children are watching more television than ever. In November 2013, Nickelodeon reported that children born after 2005, ages 8 and under, were watching an average of 35 hours of television per week. That's like a full-time job. This means that children are spending, on average, at least 5 hours in front of screen time each day, 3 hours more per day than the AAP recommends. As kids grow, their screen time tends to grow with them, and even very young children these days are spending a significant amount of time each day staring at screens. As kids grow, their screen time, or the Vision Council says 30% of parents report their children experience at least one of the following symptoms after being exposed to more than 2 hours of screen time per day: headaches, neck or shoulder pain, eye strain, dry or irritated eyes, reduced attention span, poor behavior, and irritability. Any of these symptoms can potentially affect academic performances and social interactions. Eye strain isn't just one of these risks with too much screen time. Huffington Post shared some more risks that many of us wouldn't even think about. Cyber sickness, also called digital motion sickness, symptoms range from headaches to woozy feelings caused by playing or watching action-packed games or scrolling quickly through your smartphone. Text claw is an unofficial term for soreness and crampness felt in the fingers, wrist, and forearm after heavy smartphone use. Overeating is another risk for heavy smartphone use. Have you ever noticed how hungry you get when you're watching a cooking show? Kids and people in general don't listen to their bodies when they're watching and eating something at the same time. They're too distracted to hear those body cues telling them that they're full. We should all self-reflect on how we ourselves are spending our time. Do we spend most of our time holding our smartphones? Is our television always on? Like I mentioned, our children learn from us. They look up to us and do what we do. If we limit our screen time, our children might just do the same. We can also put a limit on their screen time. We can use screen time as a reward so that it's something they are earning throughout the day for good behavior. Your kids are going to watch screen time one way or the other. You're probably going to feel a little guilty about that, and that's okay. But set your limits. Is it an hour after dinner, 2 in the morning on weekends, no screen time 2 hours before bedtime? Everyone's needs may differ, but set your limits and never ever exceed them. Consistency is key. Some other questions we can ask ourselves are, when was the last time you went for a family walk instead of watching that family-friendly movie? Is this movie or app helping my children learn? Will they take something positive away from this? The best way to help kids manage screen time is to be aware and to communicate with them. Screen time research has been historically inconsistent. However, the most important results of research show that the associations discovered between screen time and well-being is what parents should be concerned about. There are tons of statistics out there having different time limits and requirements. If we want what's best for our children, we will help them by monitoring their screen time. Be a proactive parent. Spend more quality time together and less screen time with your children left to their own devices.